What's the stupidest way you've hurt yourself? I once went on my balcony to smoke a cigarette, only I forgot there was no balcony anymore because it was getting fixed. So I broke my leg falling 1 story down. Now the real irony was, my mother wanted to fix the balcony because it was old and she was afraid it might break off and I might hurt myself. In high school I was showing off with a staple gun and accidentally stapled myself in the chest. Then, when telling the story later, picked up a staple gun to demonstrate and accidentally did it again. I'm not a clever person. I was being attacked by aliens in a dream. When they backed me into a corner I kicked one hard in the head. I woke up immediately in pain. I had just kicked my wall in real life. Badly sprained my ankle, couldn't walk properly for a week. Alright, so my sister is only 1 year older than me, and when we were very young, me 3 and her 4, we were in the bath together. I guess my mom thought this way was easier. She left to get something, and my sister said that I should dive into the tub like a dolphin. Me, being the idiot toddler I was, decided this was a wonderful idea and I've written. Had to get 3 or 4 stitches and a lifetime of stories told about it. I was finishing up this intense jigsaw puzzle, which was on a low table, so I spent the entire night crouching on the balls of my feet. The next morning, my right foot turned purple and swelled up to the size of a large orange. I was on crutches for a couple of weeks. I was 8 years old and running home on my lunch break so that I could watch Inspector Gadget, which came on at noon. I decided it would be neat to look down at my feet while I ran, and next thing I know I have run full speed into a parked car. I think I laid like a dead body on the road for a good 5 to 10 minutes. It hurt so badly. I was late for my Inspector Gadget episode and never told anyone what happened. Just realized I have one for me too. When I was in like middle school I was shaving my legs and then I brought the razor up to put it back on the shelf and I held it too close to my body and I cut my nipple open. Hurt so bad. Didn't tell my parents or see a doctor, just had a swollen cut nipple for a while. Edit. Wow, I didn't realize I wasn't the only one. Thank you for all the comments. Some of these stories have made my skin crawl. Be safe people. Jumped from the roof of our house when I was 10 to see if it hurts or I'll survive. When I landed it was like an electric shock on my feet. Edit. I survived and yes it was stupid, but when you are a child you tend to brag anything to your friends, so yeah. Did hurt like hell though. When I was 13 I was walking down my street and there was a bee that landed on me right under my eye. In a brilliant move I brain farted and punched myself in the face trying to swat it away. My brother was teasing me while I was doing homework. Think I was maybe 8 or 9 at the time, and after a few minutes, I snapped. Took my pencil and went to jab him with the eraser end so as to not hurt him too badly and get him to shut up. To get a bit more force behind it, I decided to wrap my index finger over the other end, the end with the point. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. A lot of crying and a trip to the emergency room later. I had a pencil point being removed from my finger. When I was 5, I was rushed to the ER twice in the same week. First I slid down the banister as the door below swung open, and I crashed headfirst into the corner of the door. Then 3 days later I was playing on the radiator, slipped off, and smashed my head again. Doctors thought my parents were abusive and there was an investigation over it, apparently. I went to take a plate of Totino's pizza rolls out of the microwave. The plate was soaking hot that I dropped it. Molten cheese bounced up and was burning through my ankle. I went to stick my foot in the sink to run it under cold water, as if I'm flexible enough to stand on one foot and get my leg up that high. I fell backwards and cracked my head like an egg. I had a 3rd-degree burn on my ankle, 2nd-degree burn on my fingers and 6 staples to the dome. Fucking pizza rolls at age 30. I no longer have a toenail because the garbage was too heavy. I was taking the garbage out in sandals, but the garbage bag was too heavy to carry, so I put it on my skateboard and rolled it down to the street. The tip of the skateboard lodged under my big toenail and ripped it off 3 faulty rows later. I just don't have a toenail on my big toe anymore. For all you freaks who want to see it, kind of gross I guess. When I was about 16, I was telling some story to my sister's boyfriend. I was rather animated about it and began to flail my arms about until I hit the glass fixtures of our ceiling fan and showered glass upon myself. Part of the glass cut around my nose and I began to rain blood. Was left with a nice scar and a decent story about situational awareness while speaking. I was listening to music while getting ready to cook dinner and decided to use the frying pan as a mic. Did one of those look away from the mic to take a breath moments only to turn back dramatically at a powerful lyric and hit myself in the face with the pan. Not about me but someone who sat next to me in a class a while ago. She was clipping her toenails and a big toenail flew up and hit her in the eye and she had to go to the doctor cause it cut her eye. So she has a bandaged eye for a while lol. Happened 6 years and 3+ days ago. Was home alone early afternoon. Believed I was home alone. But then I heard a noise that I thought was inside the house. No one else should be home but me, so I was spooked. I crept out and listened for movement and thought I heard a voice downstairs. I tried to sneak down the stairs, but only made it to the first step. By the second step my heel slipped out from under me and I planted hard on the step and slid down to the last 3 steps, finally able to stop. My shoulder was sore trying to save myself on the rail. My back is beat to hell from hitting all the steps down. My tailbone is pulsing nothing but pain. Trying to get up made it worse. Nothing felt broken. I was able to get up after a minute or so and baby step around the corner where I found the source. It was my neighbors talking in their backyard and brother had his window open allowing it to carry into the house. For 5 years, if I sat longer than an hour my tailbone/coccyx hurt. Watching movies, which I love, was always troublesome. I got seat cushions for it that I couldn't go without at home. About 7 months ago it just stopped. No more pain. Edit. From another comment about it. A few months after the incident I was diagnosed with kidney failure and was on dialysis for a month shy of 5 years when I got a kidney transplant. Throughout my whole sickness I talked about the injury with doctors, had scans, and of course detailed look, because of the transplant. No fractures were found. At worst, I had a mini fracture. At best, the excess fluid was exacerbating it. After the transplant I've taken it as a strong possibility that it finally healed, thanks to no excess fluid hanging around. One of the small reasons I opted for peritoneal dialysis over hemodialysis. As a kid I saw a rabbit on the other side of a fence, so I tried to climb over, knowing full well it was hot wire. Naturally I fell off the wood between the wires, and damn near electrocuted myself when I fell onto the wire. Never did get a hold of that stupid rabbit. Buried at the bottom, so I'm safe. I was at work in a high-stress office complex in Virginia. The work made you eat quickly and often at your desk. I was eating a baby carrot and tortilla chips when all of a sudden I get stabbed with the edge of a chip midway chewing a carrot. Blood all down my throat. The chip was sharp and I turned blue choking on baby carrots. Good times nearly getting killed by a chip and a carrot. Learn to slow down when eating. Edit. Of course my top comment of my account, 10 years old in February 20th, is of me choking on a baby carrot. Thank you kind stranger for the gold. I laughed at all the comments and hopefully those around me haven't figured me out yet. I was leaning over a fence post trying to bend straight and a light just missed it and bent. Only rather than use the claw of the hammer, I used the face of the head of the hammer, slipped off and smashed myself in the forehead. A good 15 years later, and I still have a scar on my forehead like a Harry Potter. Take your pick. 1. I burned out my hand on a go-kart muffler trying to help the neighborhood kid push it out of a ditch. Ended up with a blister 4 inches high on my palm. 2. I was running through the house, on tile, with socks. Inevitably I slipped, and had to catch myself on the couch. Unfortunately I got my finger stuck between the cushions, broke my finger. Both of these happened in the same year. Anybody who has TMG knows you can aggravate it in the stupidest ways. When I was in high school, I was eating an apple and my jaw completely froze as I was taking a bite. The apple was just hanging from my mouth suspended by my teeth. I looked like a horse with brain damage. I had to get my dad to extract the apple from my mouth. It hurt like a bitch for a long time. I couldn't chew or talk properly for months and my entire face was crooked because my jaw was stuck off to one side. It healed eventually, but later I set it off again by eating a cookie. I once set it off by yawning too wide. It sometimes goes off on its own for no reason. I wish I knew what it was like to have a working jaw. Edit. Thanks for the gold. This is my first one. At work. When I moved to my new workplace, I was forced to switch from regular steel toes to heavy-duty boots with a plate over the laces for my protection. While unloading a load of steel, the plate, that is there for my protection, caught on the lip of a steel beam I was stepping over on the stockpile, and dropped me from standing up with my head 6 feet up to ground level. Very luckily, there was a 10x6 steel beam to catch me on the edge, to keep my head from hitting the concrete floor, and I only had to get 12 staples and take a week off work. Of note, the only reason I bought the King boots in the first place is that the GM noticed I didn't have them and told me if I didn't show up next shift with them, I'd be sent home. Once as a child I lit a dryer sheet on fire thinking it would burn really fast because it's just fluff, right? Now it's more like plastic, and started dripping flaming molten balls of hatred on my floor. I was scared. I panicked. I shook the dryer sheet. A few molten plastic lava ball burns on my face and arms later. I now respect the laundry and leave it to my wife. Remember when your parents told you to tie your laces or you would hurt yourself? Well, they were right. I was that kid who ran with untied laces. I fell and instinctively put both my arms out. I landed on my right hand/arm and managed to snap my forearm and dislocate my wrist, as I had dislocated my wrist before, as I was accident prone. I attempted to pop it back in myself in panic. I can't describe the crunchy noise that my arm made or the pain I felt. I then had to walk to the nurse's office at my school and wait for my parents to pick me up. They didn't think it was serious. At the hospital the x-ray was a little extreme and I had to have surgery to correct my arm. 14 years later, and my wrist still isn't the same, and it still hurts in the cold. Life tip: tie your King laces. Tried to open a wine bottle with a knife because the cork was stuck inside, and my drunken self stupidly thought that if I cut around the cork with a knife, I could just pull it out. I almost cut off my entire finger and had to go to the A&E. Also, as a child I was very tubby, particularly around my waist. One day I was frying something in a flat pan and I wondered how close I could get my stomach to the pan without burning it. I burnt it. And I still have a very slight scar to remind myself of how much of an idiot I can be. I was shooting basketball when I was a kid and kept missing. I got really mad and threw the ball as hard as I could because I was done. It ended up hitting the pole and bounced back hard enough that it smashed me in the face, completely knocked me off my feet, and I smashed my head on the asphalt. Stepped on a nail. Twice. The same one. Felt something sharp piercing my skin, so immediately picked the foot up. Then, in order to avoid falling down, I placed the foot back on the same nail. Only then I got to adjust my body position to avoid falling down. I was at volleyball practice and celebrated we made a point. I did this by jumping and pulling my legs in the air in front of me, like gymnasts do to form a 90-degree angle. Turns out this is a bad idea when you are in front of the net. My feet got caught in the net, and I fell backwards. Broke my fall with left wrist which broke arm.